February 7th, Tony Dungy. Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. On this date, in 2007, Tony became the first black head coach to win the Super Bowl, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41. The same year, Tony released his memoir, Quiet Strength: The Principles, Practices, and Priorities of a Winning Life, and it reached #1 on the hardcover nonfiction section of the New York Times bestseller list. Today's story gives us a look at some of Tony's priority setting.
Learning to put God first starts with a decision that takes a lifetime. When Tony Dungy first started playing in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was young and ready to win, but he had a problem keeping his cool. When he was in school, he was known for losing his temper, and on the basketball court, he often was given technical fouls. His dad scolded him about it, but Tony brushed it off. Venting helped him focus. But when he was vying for a permanent place on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, things started to change. The change started with the Steelers Bible study. Tony believed in God and knew he was a Christian, but until he went to the Bible study, he never realized he was not putting God first in all that he did. His teammates were often known for being the biggest and the toughest guys around. So when Tony saw them praying together and studying the Word, he realized their faith was not a weakness, but a true strength. Strength they drew from God. Tony wanted to be strong in faith like these players were. Tony made the team, but during his second season, he got sick with mononucleosis. He was not allowed to take the field until his white blood cell count became normal. 3 weeks passed, and he was still not up to par, nor was he allowed to practice with the rest of the team during their preseason camp. Tony felt his old temper and frustrations coming back. His inability to train and condition could leave his spot on the team open for anyone to take. He told Donnie, one of the Christians on the team, about how he felt. "This is just not going to plan," Tony said. Donnie understood Tony's frustrations, but helped him put the situation in perspective. Donnie told him, "You profess to be a Christian, and you tell everybody that God is first place in your life. Now, when your career looks like it's teetering, we are getting a chance to see what really is first place for you." Tony agreed. He had been learning more about how to put God first and trust Him. "I'm trying to understand what you guys have, but all of a sudden I come to a crisis point and I begin to panic. My thought turns to, what am I going to do?" Donnie's answer was clear. All the Lord is trying to do is find out what is first place in your life. And right now, it looks like football is. What Donnie said made an impact on Tony. Donnie was telling it straight. Tony knew he needed to change. Football was something God allowed him to do, but it did not have to define him. His identity needed to be in God. Tony made a decision at that very moment to keep God first no matter what happened. Whether he was benched, healed, or even cut from the team, God would still be #1. 2 weeks passed, and Tony got better. Just in time for the first preseason game, he was able to return to practice with his team. That year, the Pittsburgh Steelers won 14 games and only lost 2, and later won the Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys with a score of 35-31. Tony led the team and tied for 10th place in the entire NFL in interceptions. But despite his success as a player and later as a coach, Tony Dungy never forgot the most important achievement of his life: learning to put God first. When he was eventually traded and then saw his career on the verge of collapse, he knew from experience that as long as he kept God first, God would handle things. The door shut on his career as a player in the NFL, but an even bigger door opened for him to become one of the most well-known and respected coaches of all time. God tells us in Matthew 6:33, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." What would you say is first in your life? You, your career, your family, or God? What would your family and friends say is first in your life? What is holding you back from trusting God and putting him first in your life today? Are you ready to pray and say, "God, help me make you first in every area of my life"? Learning to put God first starts with a decision. It takes a lifetime.
Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Adam De La Vega from Port City Church in Los Angeles, California. And today is February 7th, and I get the privilege of just kind of highlighting a little bit of today's story about Tony Dungy. What an incredible man, and an incredible career, and but most of all, an incredible testimony of what God can do in the life of somebody who just surrenders their plans and their purposes to him. And so I'm motivated by, first of all, I love the title of his book, Quiet Strength, because I think that in today's society, men are called to have this strength that is supposed to be, just outward and very well known and demonstrative, if you will. And I think that something that we're lacking is that quiet strength. And what I mean by that is that strength that comes from inside, from God. And I think that Tony Dungy found a way to foster that in his life. And what stood out to me is it started in his attending a Bible study for men. And sometimes we feel like, hey, we've been to enough Bible studies, we've been to church enough to where, hey, we get this, we've got this faith, and we know what to do. But it's so important to find ourselves in that place with God and with especially with other men, and to be able to hear each other's testimonies and encourage one another. And it's interesting, he comes to a point in his life, he's going through some things just like all of us, and he says, hey, things aren't going the way that I planned. And that's an indicator for all of us, isn't it? That when we're talking like that, then we have moved away from God's plans, and we have entered into our own. And certainly we don't want to do that. And so I just want to ask that question: what is first place in your life today? And that's what came to me today through this story. I hope that you'll be able to answer it the way that God would want you to answer it. I have to answer that for myself, and certainly we hope that it's Jesus Christ. So that being said, be encouraged, be blessed. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.